All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well this morning. Welcome to today's conversation, May 31st, 2025. Can you believe June is starting? We're in the we're in the last month of the second quarter. Yikes, 2025. We've got some things to do and places to be and joys to have. So today's conversation is about this version, I guess it's version 0.01, right? I don't even think I've made it to version 1.0 of this conversation that we're having continually about shame. And I want you, so I kind of came up with a phrase, shame remediation. And what I mean by that is this word remediation, it's a very powerful word when you understand the core philosophy of what remediation is. Remediation is literally chipping away everything that's not the main product, right? It's making it usable. It's making it viable. It's making it so that it can move into its best, highest function, right? So you'll hear me talk about shame remediation as we go through this conversation, and it's intentional. We're not just talking about managing shame or coping with it. I think that's what a lot of times the conversations, if shame ever comes up, if the word shame ever comes up in a training, it comes up with coping mechanisms. It comes up with ways to deal with it. The challenge with what we do as entrepreneurs, think about it. If we are in sales, Zig Ziglar says sales is the transference of enthusiasm. We are not helping people cope with their current situation. That's what an aspirin does. An aspirin helps you to get rid of the pain, cope with the pain, and then do something to it. Increase vasodilation, mask it, shut down the nerve endings, if depending upon some of the different drugs that you can take. It's a coping mechanism. I need more pain medicine. And I think that's where a lot of people, when they wind up setting their goals and setting their dreams, is they wind up looking for shame medicine, something to mask the shame. So from my industrial world and dealing with chemicals and toxins and helping to, you don't detox the earth, you remediate it, right? And the way you remediate earth, this was the conversation I was having in my mind at the time when I came up with this shame remediation, is that there was a plant just down the road from us that if trucks, when they would get into accidents and the diesel tanks on the trucks, their fuel tanks would crack, that oil would seep into the ground. Well, EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, says you got to get that out. That's not good stuff, and get into drinking water. It can harm things and harm people and harm farmlands. So you have to go out and you have to dig up an area much bigger than where the spill was. And then you take the dirt and you burn it. Literally burn the dirt. You burn it so that you flash off all of the hydrocarbons. You burn off all of the flammables. The challenge is that it's barely dirt. It's just this mix of not even biological, of this just earth that's non-living. There's nothing in it. So you can start anew. You can begin to add biological, you can begin to add mulch and all of these things. It's remediation so that it can give you this substance that holds life, right? When you remediate it, it can now hold life. That's what I believe, that when we can't get rid of shame. We can rewire the way we understand shame. We can rewire the way we use shame. We can rewire the way that we use shame instead of shame using us. So that's where this term remediation comes in. When we use this understanding, hopefully that makes sense now a little bit. Hopefully that makes you have a little better understanding of what remediation is. I want to go a little deeper. this remediation, and you can write this down, was to repair what was harmed. To repair what was harmed. Now, remember, you got shame. You understood shame before you could speak. Before you knew your name, you understood shame. It was wired into you. Why are you crying? Right? You're a baby. You're an infant. You cry. I ask those questions. Why is he crying? What's this doing? Always crying. When we go to bed, always, right? All of these things, all of these vibrations. You didn't understand language. You didn't speak English or Chinese or Korean or whatever the language was that you were raised in, but you understood the vibration. You still have that skill today. You can tell when somebody, you can see a friend of yours and look at them and go, you okay? You seem off. Right? So remediation is to repair what was harmed, is to restore what was lost or disrupted. And remediation is to return the system, the body, the nervous system. This is all neuro-encoded. If you learned this before you could speak, it wasn't logic. This was neuro-encoded. So our goal is to return the system to a state of wholeness that shame had fractured. Shame doesn't just live in our thoughts. We don't have, oh, I feel in shame now. Shame is a continuous, constant filter that's wired into our bodies, wired into our relational patterns, right? Wired into our relational patterns, even how we show up into the world. Shame shows up. Oh, I'd rather not go to the thing. I don't want to be on. Who's all there? Why? It's too big of a crowd for me. You're not afraid of too big of a crowd. That's a shame protection module that gets activated. So when we work with it, imagine you are now becoming a bomb tech, right? If you've ever seen the movies where the guys dress up in those big green outfits where I don't know if it would protect him if the bomb went off. Probably not. Maybe. But they're these big, huge outfits. They're clunky. They're clunky because in order to protect, you got to have some depth. You got to have some thickness, right? We talk about thick skin. Well, shame isn't a thick skin. Shame is this, for those of you who are old enough, do you remember the concrete pipes we used to run through on the playground and you'd run into and somebody would like lose the top of their head, right? Metaphorically speaking, because it's right. That's what we built around us. We built this steel bunker of impenetrability. The reality is that it's a screen door on a submarine. Things still get in easily. We think we're bulletproof. We think we're shame-proof, but we are so wired into shame. There's nobody who doesn't have. Well, I should take that back. They've done studies and they found that on addiction to approval, about 99.8% of the population have some level of addiction to approval, which is shame related. We call it addiction to approval sounds not good. Shame sounds 10 times worse. It's shame, right? So the 0.2% who are not what science would say is addicted to approval or has shame are literally the ones who don't have that frequency, that those modules turned on in their brain. And it's a brain challenge. It's called schizophrenia. So when people tell me, oh, I'm not addicted to approval or I don't have shame, and they're literally having a conversation and they're what's deemed normal and acceptable in society, they're not schizophrenic. They have shame. They have addiction to approval. So when we work with it, we're doing more than emotional processing. See, if you look at the ways that you worked on, how do you get up earlier in the morning, right? Is there any shame around not getting up at 5 a.m.? No, the story is the shame we tell ourselves. Ugh, why do I do this? This has always happened. I should get up with this. I mean, when I was getting up at 5 a.m., I was feeling great. Anybody know what I'm talking about? So it's not the shame of getting up at 5 a.m. Working on shame doesn't make us get up at 5 a.m. Putting strategies in place. It's simple to get up at 5 a.m. It is simple to get up at 5 a.m. It's not hard at all. If I held a gun to somebody's head, you'd be up at 4 a.m. and you wouldn't move till 5 a.m. It's not hard to do anything we want to do. The thing that makes it hard is the module that has been installed and upgraded day after day, year after year, decade after decade, called the module of shame. And now we come along and we realize, oh my gosh, shame is everywhere. Shame is everything. Some of us won't even say the word shame. I don't have shame. Oh, I feel so ashamed. We won't say it when we're wanting to be proactive. I must work. I get to work. I have the chance to take a new version of me and look at my shame. We know this. Every addict has to admit they are one. Hi, I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Sean. Right? Whatever. I'm not. I've never been. Don't believe it. I've had way too many on a day or two. So when we work with shame, we're doing more than emotional process. We're patterning. Did I send this over to? Yes. Okay, just checking. We're patterning a new pattern inside of us. Right? We're literally rewiring, upgrading, becoming aware of. And the thing is that shame sits in this corner. It's one of those things. How many of us have a drawer in our house? How many of us have a drawer in our house where we throw everything? The junk drawer. How many of us might have a junk room? That place where we throw all of the stuff when guests are coming over. Don't open that door. You'll be blown away when everything blows out of our room, right? This is what we do with shame. We keep shoving it over in a corner. That's my shame corner. I don't talk about it. Don't go there. I don't want to go there. When we talk about remediation of shame, what we're literally doing is increasing our capacity. Think about it. Just think about the physiology of the body. There's some pretty cool folks here who work in the wellness world. If you increase your lung capacity through exercise, through running, through sprinting, through doing whatever it is, you increase your VO2. I think that's what it's called, your VO2 max. What is the amount of oxygen your body can bring in, send into your bloodstream? How efficient is it? And send the CO2 back out. Right? If you increase your lung capacity, can't you do more and it's easier? You increase the capacity. If you work on your muscle fibers, what do you have to do to your muscle fibers to make them grow? Do you just look at them and go, grow muscle fibers? I've tried that. I think I even bought a course on that. How to talk to your muscle. I didn't buy a course on that. You have to tear them down. You have to put them under stress. This is no different. When we realize how toxic shame is to us individually, we have to stress our body to remove it. If you've ever had lactic acid buildup, sitting still isn't a good thing to do. You have to move around. You need to move your body. You need to get your lymph system involved. You need to get this thing to filter things out. The challenge is shame is such a toxic, explosive topic, such a energetic switch that if we talk about shame, we go through all of our shame, which is most of our life. If I were to ask you to write down on the piece of paper in front of you, what percentage of the times have you won? I mean, knocked it out of the park, home run, hit a triple, recognized for absolutely superstardom. How many times in your life? 100 times? 1,000 times? Type it in the chat if you just had to guess. I mean, you think, man, that was a good memory. How many times? Type it in the chat. Here's the next part. How soon ago, not how long ago, in how much in the recent past, how long ago was your most biggest win? Was it a week ago? Was it a day ago? Was it a year ago? Was it this morning? Here's what I want you to pay attention to. We have 80,000 thoughts a day, 60,000 thoughts a day. University of Queensland University out of Canada recently in the last 5 years said we have about 6,000 thoughts a day. I still haven't been able to clarify if it's 6,000 awareness thoughts a day and we still have the other 60, 70,000 thoughts, or are they saying we only had anyway? So the statistics, the standard was we have between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day. Of those thoughts, 80% are repetitive. 80% are repetitive. Out of the 80% that are repetitive, 80% of those are not, do not add to our value. They are not in our favor. So when I say most of your life, if you think of all of the times you've had an interaction where you could win or you could feel shamed or you could add to shame, or you've been able to develop your shame in such a way that you become numb to it, out of the thousands of times you've won, how many times do you think you didn't win and you caused yourself to think of addiction to approval or negative nature? This is why this topic is so challenging, so shifting. So when we understand what you're about to embark in, what you have said, I want to improve on, I want to understand, I want to tame this beast in my world called shame, the seven-headed dragon, it's going to take remediation. Otherwise, we're just cutting off one head and two more grow back. So if you're ready to begin the process, that's what we're going to have a conversation on. So this is more than emotional processing. We're literally restoring capacity. This is why when you have these breakthroughs, these ahas, you're like, I feel lighter. Well, you didn't lose anything. You lost energy, negative energetic frequencies that were running in your body that were creating resistance and stress. It was literally, we use the expression all the time, like riding around with the handbrake on in your car or your foot on the brake. And the part that gets people really scary is the part where you take your voice back, where you take back your agency. This ability to connect without collapse, this ability to engage without self-rejection. Because, by the way, nobody rejects you. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. Oh my God, they don't like it. I knew they would reject me. They didn't reject you. They rejected the idea. You are not the idea. So in fields of environment like science, where land is polluted, when they clean the land, they call it remediation. They don't just cover it up. Can you imagine that? Imagine, so here's personal development in the land. Imagine if we were going to go personally develop the land. And let's use a place where we all know and understand and have our own interpretation of it, but we understand that Chernobyl is that place in Russia where the nuclear facility melted down. Nobody lives there. Well, there's dogs there and there's animals there that they're quite curious about because of the radiation that's in there. But could you imagine if we just covered up Chernobyl and started to sell it? How about this? How many of us know? Type a L in the chat if you know of places where they built developments over landfills. They built a development over a landfill and somebody starts digging in their yard and they find needles. What? So that's personal development for most people. You've got this landfill of just your childhood, your bad relationships, your bad connections with friends or family, the disengagement between siblings, or the fight with your mom when you were little. You have all, and then you go, okay, I'm going to create a garden, an oasis in my life. And you just pile books and trainings and tapes and sessions and events and webinars and seminars, and you travel to events and you go to live events and you go to webinar events, and then you do social media because you are just building this perfect garden. And on the outside, man, you look sharp until somebody pokes at it. Life pokes at it. A train wreck happens, and it's like macrame. It just collapses. And then it all boils up. It all bubbles out. Oh my gosh, I'm such a phony. Because we didn't remediate the addictions. We didn't remediate the shame. We didn't really just clean it. We just covered it up. My goal, my desire in this shame remediation conversation is to help bring back the you, the authentic you that was always you, to bring it back to light, to bring it back to life. So this is key. Again, remediation, restoring wholeness. Write that down. Remediation equals restoring wholeness. Where would you want to restore wholeness? Where would you want to take this to the next level? Think about it. So think of your 6 pillars. Just real quick, what's one of the biggest things you would like to bring back to wholeness as it relates to your 6 pillars? Write it down. Do a little work. Family. Where's the thing that needs to be remediated? What's the feeling? What's the essence? What would it be in your finances? And when you say, well, I need more, that's not remediation. This is, we're causing you to think a little bit. We're creating some new neural pathways. Is it your story with money that needs to be remediated? We hear that all the time. Well, it's you got to change your story with money. I want more. What's wrong with that story? What were you told when you wanted more? What were you told? What was your story when you were little? Anytime you asked for money. Why never ask for money? Really? Did you ever ask for a candy bar? Did you ever ask for a bicycle? Did you ever ask for, some of us are old enough, we never asked for a phone. We didn't have phones, right? What was the thing you asked for? I asked, I'll never forget. I forget what birthday it was. It was probably 10, 11, maybe 12. And I asked for a Huffy bicycle. I said, if I could, I don't want anything else, just a Huffy bicycle. I knew it. It was at Connolly's. That was the town store, kind of the hard. It wasn't an Ace, but it was like an Ace. But It had clothes. It was everything, right? We were in a small town. But there was a Huffy hanging from the ceiling in there with all the other bikes. But this one, oof, that was, if I could, oh my God, if I could, if that, oh, that would, my life would be complete. And I got it. And for a moment, maybe longer than a moment, the part of me that equated gifts with love. How many of you equated gifts with love? And maybe it might be the first time you think of it that way. That was the only thing I got. How fast do we acquire a goal and it loses its enthusiasm? How fast does shame mask the joy of the thing you want? It's because I didn't have a DMP. I didn't know what a DMP was. I didn't know what a goal was. I probably did because of my dad. My point is that this stuff gets wired in early, before you even know what wiring is, or psychological pathways, or neuroencoding, or goal setting, or addiction to approval. This stuff gets wired, and it got wired in from some of the greatest teachers of destruction, of chaos in our life, called parents, called brothers and sisters, called teenagers, called third graders. This stuff gets wired in quick because it's a what? A survival mechanism, not a thriving mechanism, not a defense mechanism. It only shows up in survival. And from very early on, we wound up seeing most things in our life, especially when threatened by our environment, as a survival mechanism. Teacher's pet. Who wanted to be the teacher's pet? Usually the one who couldn't stand a fight in the schoolyard. And it didn't have to be a physical fight, just didn't want to have to deal with the words. That makes sense? So we become these things, we become these titles, we become these names, these identities that somebody else gave us. I have never met a kid, a kindergartner, first grader, when you go, what do you want to be when you grow up? A teacher's pet. A bully. I don't know what you would ask him today. I mean, I don't know what you would get today if you asked him. A social media, I want to be an influencer, right? That's about as crazy as wanting to be a fireman when you're 2 years old, or second grade, 2 years old, when you're in second grade. I told you, I used to tell my mom I wanted to be a truck driver. I am going to be a truck driver. And I learned about trucks and over the road hauling. I said, I'll see you once a week. My mom was really, because I was hooked. Who wants to be a truck driver? I did. I don't know why. I still don't know why to this day. I've never really looked at it. I'm sure if I go into my archetypes and ask, I'll understand why. Maybe it is because I could be away from my mom. Who knows? Just saying. You see how this stuff gets wired in from very early on? So take each pillar, and what's something you would like to create wholeness in each pillar? Right? Family, finance, body, mind, society, and you can do faith. Write it down. What are some ideas? What's a word that pops up? What's some of the things you're feeling right now? Because this is all across the body, right? This is all across your life. So why does this matter in your life? That's the question. So family is where it starts first, especially if you're, well, there's different. So let me ask you this. Drop a 1 in the chat if this makes sense. Listen first and then drop a 1 if it makes sense. And 2, or raise your hand if you've got questions. Is it possible that shame gets wired into children differently? The first child versus the second child versus the third child? Is it possible that those kids get raised differently? So that means that their understanding of shame is different. Many, listen, I've done counseling and conversations with many brothers and sisters where life would happen, and one, you swear to God, you'd think they were raised by different people. You think they were raised in different worlds. And they were, weren't they? Right? So these ideas of how shame was built into us, all of them have a level of got messages of unworthiness. How many of us have, listen, I'll ask you, I had 2 older brothers. It wasn't uncommon weekly, maybe more times than once a week, but weekly, if you had multiple siblings in your life, did you ever get compared to one of them? Drop a C in the chat if you ever got compared to a sibling. And if you didn't have siblings, you got compared to a cousin. Welcome to shame. You're not good enough. And what if, so here's the thing, what if you were the one they always compared you to? You need to be more like Heather. Why can't you be more like your older sister, Heather? Why can't you be more like Jimmy? If you were that one that everybody was comparing you to, how did that feel? Didn't that bring shame and ridicule once you got away from the accolades? Oh my God, don't tell anybody that. Don't make me like that. Don't point me out like that. I don't want to be known like that, right? That's all shame. But we don't talk about it. Listen, if we got paid for the amount of shame we received, if we got reparations for shame, we'd be set for life. You know, I know we'd be set for life because we're messed up for life. Until. Is this making sense? I'd love to hear just some feed forward. What's something you learned, something you like so far? What's something that's jumped out at you? What's an aha you've had? Just curious. Go ahead, unmute, say it out loud. Don't even need to raise your hand. Just say it. What's the thing? What's something that's jumped out? Hey, John.
Nothing is hard to do.
Yeah. So why did that jump out?
I think because in my mind, I have made things hard to do.
And so now that you heard it, so do you see how your body, y'all notice her body physiology shift? Nothing is hard to do. Why did you learn that? Well, because I think nothing is really hard to do now. There's learning, there's lessons. Where do you feel that in your body?
Are you asking me that to answer that question?
Yeah, where do you feel that in your body?
In my biceps. I'm holding on to my biceps.
Okay, so you think that doing is lifting? Right?
I would agree with that.
Right? So that's the lifting. Or pushing away. Which do you think? Ask your bicep. Is this lifting or pushing away?
It's pushing away.
So then isn't that the tricep?
Yeah, yes, but that's not what I'm holding on to.
No, I know, but so the question am I holding on to this? Or is it really my bicep or is it my tricep that I'm nursing my bicep? I'm serious. This is a
No,
app.
I'm massaging my biceps.
Okay, so it's effort. So what does your sacral chakra say? What does your doing chakra say? What is it? I'm sorry, solar plexus. What does the doing chakra say right now? How does that feel?
It does not agree.
Okay, so
Doesn't agree.
so who's shaming who? Where's and this and listen, this is how we uncover this stuff because it's at the root cause. How many of you have ever gardened or weeded and just pulled the weed out and it's like it grows back? And your mom always said, or somebody always said, or the green thumb gardener, you got to get the root out. So where's the root of this? Is it in your bicep or is it in your solar plexus? You just asked me to answer a question. You didn't tell me you're going to do all this.
It's yeah, it's in the solar plexus.
Okay. So ask the universe, do you have the energy to heal this?
Sure.
Yeah. Is it okay if I let my body heal?
Yes.
And is it okay if doing it becomes easy?
Yes.
See, the reason that learning something new seems hard is because we have to give up the old identity. That's where the work is, giving up the old identity. I got to get out of my comfort zone, or just whoever came up with that. If I could find them, I would have a word or 1,000 with them. Why did you call it a comfort zone when nobody's comfortable in it? And then we create this oxymoron. You got to get out of your comfort zone. Well, it's uncomfortable to get out of my comfort zone. Well, anyway. So understanding this idea of shame. Anybody else learn lesson? Aha.
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Wheezy.
How are you?
Outstanding.
Good man. Good man. I love it. What came up and I'd be curious to find out why.
Doesn't that feel better? I'm serious.
It does.
Doesn't that feel better when we say, I'm curious to find out. There's not
Heather was in my face too. Because she nailed that one in the very beginning. But in writing the different columns,
mm-hmm.
The word authentic was prevalent. I went, okay, that out of shame? Where did that come from?
Where do you think it came from?
I believe it came out of the difference between being present versus performing.
Okay.
Oh, that felt good. That felt good. Identifying that. Every single column, there was something, but it all started with authentic. Yeah, rather than performing, being present in integrity. So yeah.
So this idea of when we look at family, because that's where most people's initial programming happened.
Yes.
Right? Because if it wasn't family and you were an orphan, right? You were adopted, you were in foster care, It's still family, but it wasn't family. You have a different story. I was in foster care. We don't call them family. So these ideas around family, the shame lens, the core survival, right? If I'm not part of this, I'll die at an unconscious level, right? If I don't belong here, I'll not survive. So we become hyper vigilant. When I hear the descriptions of the terminology that are eloquent and high level conversational language like hypervigilance. I didn't know what hypervigilance was when I would sit in my bed and try to listen to my mother's footsteps to see how drunk she was. Did you hear her stumble into the wall? Where did it say in childhood rearing, make sure your child understands that to pay attention to your footsteps and to pay attention to whether you bump into walls or not, so they can tell whether how sober you are or not sober you are? We pay attention to a dog when we get out. Oh, we put the back of our hand out. We do that. We're hyper vigilant when we're threatened. How many times were we hyper vigilant as a child? Mom and dad would argue, oh my God, stay out of the house. All of these things, when we start to look at it, maybe it happens so often in our lives as kids that it was normal. And so what do? We try to find other people who are normal like us. You've heard Michael Music come on here a couple of times and go, I listen to everybody's stories. Kayla's story, raped as a child from the age of 4 to 10 by father in the morning and stepfather in the afternoon. Everybody else would listen to that and go, I don't have that big. My story's not that bad. Right? Michael says, I was raised as a good kid. I was raised by a good family. He was. There were other things that happened in his world. They weren't as tragic or as environmentally affecting, environmentally visible. Right. So then all of this stuff gets passed on. We don't talk about that. Anybody ever hear that? We don't do that. That's not who we are. Be good. Don't embarrass us. And so here's the thing when we talk about creating income, here's how family shame crosses over into financial. If I'm different, I'll betray them. You hear AJ say it. Right? His dad says, oh, you're taking mom to Dubai with Mr. Big Shot. His brother goes, oh, aren't you special? Why don't you just take her to someplace in Belgrade? Why don't you go locally? If I'm different, am I betraying them? If I succeed or outgrow them, will I be loved? So the energy around this is confusion, collapse, guilt, shame. So this is why we're having this conversation about remediation. We literally have to take this thing and to use movie terms, maybe, to put it in the crucible of light so that we can dissect it and bring back our wholeness. The challenge with going after shame is the tightrope walk, the diffusing the bomb of shame without activating it. So it takes tone, it takes patience, it takes an agreement, you with your shame body. Hey, listen, I'm not tossing you out, but you and I both know we've kind of wrecked each other's lives for a while, for maybe a minute or two, or a decade or two, or a couple of decades or two. I want you to know I love you. I'm glad you got me here, because without you, I couldn't be here. I may not want to stay here, and literally have these conversations out loud so that it becomes real and have it in a dialogue. So, is this all right? Go ahead.
Amazing, because what has just come, you were talking about listening to your mother's footsteps, and what popped into my head, and I don't remembering this is a kind of a interesting memory. Is that because my dad was a commercial airline pilot, he would be coming home after a flight at different hours. But as soon as I heard, didn't matter what time of day or night it was, when I heard him come home, I was like, oh, phew, it's gonna be okay for a few days until his next flight. It was safe and interesting. I just want to cry. Anyway, that was interesting. Very interesting.
So pay attention to that. And what I mean by pay attention to that is here's how this translates into what you do now, the empty nester. Isn't that exactly why you do empty nesting teaching?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, exactly why. To give them a safe space.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that. Yes.
This was born into you. You became an empty nester every time he left for the flight.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't mean everything out of the nest was empty. You still had the nest, but the nest was empty of your dad. So now you go help women, husbands, moms, and dads to deal with the empty nest of their kids.
Mm-hmm.
So
Love it.
you get to tell that story. One of the reasons that I do this is because I know that I felt empty nest syndrome when I was a child. And as a child, I know what it's like for when a parent leaves. As a parent, when our kids leave, it's a whole different scary. I was afraid when I was a child, I was afraid of what I was left with. As a parent, I was afraid of what I was left without.
Beautiful.
This is what self-introspection does. This is what facilitated self-introspection. If you allow yourself to start to go down this path that looks like I have I have a buddy send me this every Halloween. It's the picture of the tornado shelter buried in the side of a hill with the scary clown, just like the scariest of scary clown faces, just poking out of the door, going, "Come on in, it's safe." Right? That's the feeling we sometimes get when we go off on this journey. Come on, let's go talk about shame. Come on in, it's safe. You're like, I the hell with you. I'll stay out here and fight the bears and the tigers and the ticks. I'm not going in there. And that's how we believe this conversation of shame is going to go.
Bit
And
by
yet,
bit, it's been very freeing. Thank you for this ongoing conversation for over a week now.
yeah, almost 10 days now.
Yeah, it's bit by bit. It just, there is a freedom, and this last one right here was, whew, that was wonderful.
It isn't there a freeing, a feeling of relief? Isn't
It
there a
is.
room for capacity now?
Well, the tightness in my solar plexus is now relaxed.
Isn't that and this is all neurobiological understandings that was happening and we didn't even know it was happening.
Exactly. I wasn't even aware how tight it was until it was relaxed.
So I'm going to ask Heather. Heather, of all of the people for 30 years that you've worked with, I think it's called psychosomatic. It's they have this thought in their head that if they can just release the thought, the pain goes away. Is that a real thing?
Yes.
And so when you see a lot of people, how quickly can you recognize physical versus mental?
Pretty quickly.
And what if they just swear it's physical? Why would they do that? What is their story behind going, no, it's it, no, my back has hurt forever. And you're like, this is all energy. There's nothing even wrong with you. Why do you think they hold on to that story?
Well, there's a reward. They get a reward for that story.
So shame equals reward. Success equals pain. What if we shifted that? We know shame is pain, but no, it's the reward I get for belonging. If I'm successful, I feel like I'm betraying them. I would always say, this is, you get, don't embarrass me. My mom would say, don't embarrass me. I make more money than my mom. I'm going to embarrass her. Oh, well, she'll be proud, but how? She doesn't have a story for that. She didn't have a story for my ability to speak on stage. I don't know how you do that. So when we understand the remediation, it's not where I'm learning how to deal with shame. No, we're remediating shame. There comes a point to where the land becomes so toxic, nothing grows. And the challenge is when you remediate land, it can absorb more toxin. It's like charcoal. Charcoal absorbs a lot of stuff. And at some point, it can't absorb anymore unless you go clean it out. We've got pretty much to our limit. If you've ever said, man, I'm just at my limit, I've had it up to here, it's just proof that we have filled ourselves up with things we don't want. So this is the first run at helping explain what shame remediation is about. Do you think there's an audience out there for this? I mean, I know you guys are all super studs here. And the key is my fear, my desire is how to go have people work on this time bomb. I don't know. I can't think of some of the names of the games, but where you got it, where you touch stuff, and if you move the wrong thing, I guess where you were chipping out the blocks. Anybody remember that? Where you would bang the little blocks out like on ice, and then if you hit the wrong, the whole thing would collapse. I guess the best one would be the Jack in the Box. You know it's gonna pop up. So, thoughts, comments, takeaways, lessons. What'd you learn? What'd you like from this? What's your ahas? My biggest, what I learned is that we can talk about it without collapsing. Only because the way I used to help people get through their shame was called an accountability coach. Well, that's stupid. Why are you doing that? Don't do that. Listen, I was a shame. You know, we talk about hope dealers. I was a shame dealer. I didn't know it was I was dealing shame. I was on the street corner slinging shame like you wouldn't believe it. And people who needed it were signing up for shame. Ooh, shame me, make me feel bad so I can feel like I'm doing something. Not a good thing. So I learned there's a way you have to venture into this with an avatar of a psychographic, somebody who wants to deal with this. And there's certain key words for people who are looking to step out of their shame. There's key words, SEO, that people are looking for that want it, kind of like voyeurism. I want to watch how we deal with shame. So for every person who says yes, there's probably 100 who are going, I'm going to watch what happens to you. So that's what I learned and what I liked as we go through this process, because I'm watching faces and I'm feeling energies, and it's listen, I get to have this conversation, and yet on this shoulder and this shoulder, I don't have the good angel, the bad angel. I got two shame angels going, really? You think people want to hear this? They want to hear it from you? Do you think you're the one that's going to teach? Are really serious? Have you looked at, you're turning 60. Have you seen what you've done in life? What have you accomplished? You got 12 sheep. That's what you're going on. You got 12 sheep. Way to go, Skippy. What? I mean, these are the phrases that run in my head.
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Silka.
I'm glad you have 12 sheep. You can double them next year.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing we're talking about already is prepping and planning. And that's why we're building these little run-ins so that we can also use them as nurseries for next year. So.
Oh, that's very cute, Sean. And I love the little videos you sent us of you laying down with the sheep. You're not needing a wife anymore. You have all the sheep now.
Yeah, exactly. I can get all the love, and especially in Nora. I've never had in all of the years, in the 3 years we've had sheep, I've never been licked by a sheep. And Anura is like a little puppy. She'll come over and she'll give kisses. I'm like, I'm waiting for her to bite because they only have bottom teeth in the front. But she hasn't nibbled. She just
They only have bottom teeth. What's
Yeah.
going on with the front ones?
Well, because they grab grass. So God does funny things. So they can grab the grass, they can grab it and bite it, but they squeeze it against their top gum. And if they can't pull it out, because sheep have a tendency to eat the grass very close, and if I guess they had both top and bottom, they could pull all the roots out. I don't know, but it's a interesting.
I don't know. The horse has bottom and top teeth.
Yes,
so
horse has bottom and
kind of
top.
weird. They never even grow in on the top.
Nope, they don't have top teeth. Now
Often,
they have full
or
set of
just fishy?
molars in the back. But-
So they can, yeah. Oh, that's weird. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
Ah,
thought it was weird too when I first saw them, because with cows have top and bottom, but
no.
and I went, they don't have, oh my God, they lost their teeth. And then somebody says, well, you're an idiot. Shame, because they were an authority. They said, no, sheep don't have top teeth. I'm like, you're kidding me. I should have Googled it before I asked you.
Well, why do you think people say stuff like that? I mean,
Because it's just, well.
but no, let me finish.
Yes.
So people constantly, I mean, this is not just parents to children, that's anybody to anyone. People don't think and they say things and you call them shame. So people constantly shame others. Why would they do that? Why would they not just simply say, well, sheep don't have top teeth? Why do they have to say, you're stupid or you're an idiot or whatever? They can just give you the facts and educate you. Why do people think they have to add that? I'm sure they're not thinking, oh, I want to shame.
No.
But maybe they want to say, hey, you're just not educated. But they could just say that. I say to people, you are uneducated, you must educate yourself. Is that shaming them? I don't think so. I mean,
well, it's so a couple of things. One, it's tone, right? The other one is, who is the giver? Guys, when we have our friends, and I'm sure girlfriends as well, we can pick on each other without picking on each other, without shaming. It's kind of this rite of passage and rite of connection and community, right?
Like, but do you really think that you can pick on someone, you don't shame them? Maybe you don't, you think it's okay with you, but you don't know how the other person may feel.
Well, this is why some very close friendships can have a departure, because they thought, well, I didn't mean that. That's not what I meant. Well, that's how I took it, right? That's how that relationship happens. For the most part, it's tone, timbre, it's all of the things, right? Because 7% of a dialogue are only the words. 93% is everything else. So when somebody says, oh, you're an idiot, yeah, they're kind of picking on you. They may not shame you, but they're letting you know that I'm better than you. There's two ways to have the tallest building in town. Build yours bigger or tear everybody else's down. And if, because of the way we're designed, the way we were raised, the way we were formatted by our parents and by our environment, if we have a chance to kick somebody down the curb a little bit, we'll do it. It's how we're wired. You look at the news, why do they leave the good news for the very last 2 minutes? And now the last 2 minutes of good news, it was 30,
I
20.
don't think the news ever has any good news in the United States.
No, there's a couple of channels that tried it, that were now for the good news for the day, and everybody would turn off. So they stopped giving the good news for the day.
People like drama here, and that's what they like really hook into. The more drama there's every day, the more they love it. It's pretty thick, I think. I don't watch the news for that very reason, because I think it is crazy, and it is mainly in this country, because like in Germany, you get just the facts, not all the drama with it. I don't think we would like that so much. Germans are more facts and logic. And here, oh, the drama is like.
Well, so the drama converts into the brain into dopamine. It's the drug of awareness, the drug of inclusion, this drug of making me feel good. I know something that maybe nobody else does, or I'm first to know. So when we do, also when somebody, Curtis and I, Curtis and I have a great relationship, and
how great that may be.
we'll pick on each other, right? And it's said from a place of love. So the tone behind it, because if those words were spoken in a confrontational way, there'd be fists thrown. But it's said jokingly, so it's like speaking a language. There's things that you can say to other horse people that I wouldn't know. You and Bob could have a conversation that we could sit here and literally go, do you know what they're talking about? And it's not shame related, but it's, I don't know, I'm not included, so therefore I feel left out.
Well, I remember when I got my horse, and I needed to get a farrier. I had no idea what a farrier is. I'm like, what is a farrier? Oh, it needs to get the hoofs done. Well, I also didn't know that the horse's teeth keep growing, so you have to get the horse's teeth done. I mean, how crazy is that? There's many things I learned as I went along, and I appreciated when people told me this. So, I think there's one way of sharing information, and the other way, even if you're good friends with someone, they can still become offended. Some people are very sensitive to things, as you may know.
Yes.
So it's just sometimes, yes, the way you say it, but I generally say things very forward. So when people tell me they're reading between the lines, I don't get it, because you don't have to read between the lines, because I'm just telling you. So what else are you reading between the lines?
Well,
but,
here's the point, is that they're wired to always read between the lines. You're like, I only have one line. How could you read between things that was just one idea? But that's how their shame protects them. Well, what are they really saying? Because they.
But why do you think it's shame? I mean, I don't get it. I really don't get why we keep talking about this for 10 days now. Right. I don't. I'm not getting it. The other things, you just, you did and you moved on. You did, you moved on. And I am wondering how this will help me build my team in Mexico.
Okay, so
maybe you can shed some light on that, because
sure.
we heard a lot about shame now. And yes, I mean, we all had the shame, and we all realize that we have shame, and we should move past that, certainly. But how is that going to help my business?
So in the dialogue we just had about friends and language, every time that you spoke about what you do, your version of it was the only version of it. I don't know why they want to read between the lines. I'm not talking about reading between the lines. An awareness might be is that everybody reads between the lines. The fact that you're not presenting a dialogue that gives them space to read between the lines doesn't mean they're not going to read between the lines.
But that's just Americans. People in other countries don't necessarily do that. I know Germans don't read between the lines, because they're assuming that simply you're going to tell them if they're fat, you're just going to say you're fat. You shouldn't be eating that piece of cake now or something. So there is no necessarily reading between the lines. Here, certainly people only love warm and fuzzy. And so you want to give them warm and fuzzy, especially here in California. People don't rather not know the truth at all if it's not warm and fuzzy. So yes, I understand because I work with people from all over the world. But yes, I do find it. And sometimes I say you don't need to read between the lines because I'm telling you exactly the way it is.
So, but aren't you triggering their shame? Unintentionally.
I thought I was helping them not waste time.
But see, they're wired to waste time. And you're saying that you're not a good person if you waste time.
Well, I don't say that. So.
No, but you got to remember, this is not what you say. It's the 1,000 versions of their interpretation of how somebody told them in the past, don't do that. It's never the dialogue. It's always the interpretation of the conversation. So
Well,
that's where this is going to help.
Very true. That's very true. I'm having a conversation right now with someone, and that's very true because this person is just stuck in his own story, and he repeats the story over and over again. But this is not how I see things. And he gets very upset when I tell him this is not the way I see things. But you're right. So
So how this will help you in building in Mexico.
yes.
Mexicos are very emotional people, wildly heartfelt, centered, and they, because they're Mexican, right? One of the things that is funny is the very first time I started working in Mexico about 20 years ago, as I said, because again, we talk about because it's a slang and it's a joke. Oh, you know, 3 Mexicans walk into a bar. There's just this slang, right? Like Irish, it's called mix, but Mexico, people from Mexico, Mexican sounds like a bad terminology, a bad description. How it was taught to us, how it was taught
to me. So it's all.
But hang on, but this is not about,
for you.
Hang on. So this is where ideology or understanding, you don't think it's bad, but Mexicans know that when they see somebody who's white, somebody who's not from Mexico, they don't understand. Mexicans don't deal with Germans. There's a lot that do.
Okay, actually,
hang on.
German with me than Americans.
Hang on. That's unique to your world. There's a lot. My point is that Mexico is wildly cultural, just like Germans are wildly cultural. They understand their culture. Mexicans have a unique culture. It's different than Peruvians. It's different than Colombians, Mexicans, different than Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
So understanding shame in Mexico is going to be I think that's why I did so well in Latin America. I understood shame.
Oh.
And the reason I say that is because every Mexican will tell you they want more. Most Americans will go, no, I'm okay, I'm comfortable. But Mexicans, they want more. They are willing. What do we say about Mexicans? They're workers. They are hard workers.
Yes, I agree with that.
So if they're hard workers, what happens when we bring them a model of leverage? They don't understand. I don't understand how this, and so that's why they work. That's why they rapidly rise in the ranks, is because every one of them works. And they have a work ethic probably a lot stronger than others, definitely stronger than Puerto Ricans. Right? So when you go to bring your business there, they'll figure out the comp plan, they'll make it work, they'll do all of these things. What they want is they want somebody who will make them feel good and understand them and listen to them. I did very little teaching and training. I spoke and helped them understand it's okay for them to live from their heart. They normally live from their hands, AKA working, doing the hard work, doing the intense labor. Nobody has really taught them, given them space to be able to think and to lead. The third large, now this was a decade ago, the third largest economy in Mexico was Mexicans in the US sending money back to Mexico. That was their part of their GDP, was income of money transferred from the States. So most people would love to go back home to Mexico because Mexico, it's cheaper, it's easier, it's freer.
Yeah.
So the concept then is listening to them. Nobody wants to build a business. They want what the business gives them. So they wind up turning it into my experience in Latin America, in Costa Rica, where it started. We had 11,000 people in 5 months. Was $25. $25 a month they could make. That's it. That's what took it from 0 to 11,000 was we can make $25 a month. How?
$25. And how devalued is their money?
No, well, it was just, this is because it was moms who could go sell 2 of these packs, 3 of these packs and make $25. They were like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It was $25 a pack, a 7-day trial sample, and they made $5 on a pack. They go sell 5 of them. They made $25. They could get their kids food. It had nothing to do with the comp plan or visionary or want to become a millionaire or travel the world. So the shame they had was, I can't take care of my family. That was the shame they had. That was the thing. I'm a mom. I can't feed my kids. If you get to meet Kayla one day and she comes back on here, she's one of my dearest friends. She was living in a house with dirt floor and pallets as walls. Pallets, the things that they put crates on, that fork trucks pick up, the wooden stuff underneath all of the big pallets. Those were the walls of her house.
Where was she living?
Costa Rica.
Okay. Well, I've seen that in Fiji before, so yeah.
So my point is that you get to go there. First of all, you've been to Mexico before many times, right?
Yes.
Okay. Has anybody ever tried to or ask for a strand of your hair?
No.
Okay.
Pictures.
Well, okay. So let this boil in that brilliant brain of yours, simmer in that brain of yours. There are people who would pay for a lock of your hair. I'm not saying go sell your hair in Mexico. I'm not saying that. There are people, when your team gets big enough, who do not have the etiquette to not pull your hair.
I thought that was only in India.
No, that's in Mexico as well, because they want a strand of that golden hair. I'm serious. I have friends. If you've experienced, I've never been to India, so I can't speak from that. So
I have not either, but I have many Indian men that message me all the time to come visit them.
Okay. Well, in Mexico,
we building in India, but I don't want to go there by myself.
No, do not go there by yourself.
Scary.
So when I was vice president of sales, and I would bring, and there was a couple of people, Mama Sherry was one of them, and I would bring them to Mexico, blonde. She's like, you know, I'm going to have to get my hair done. I'm like, I'll do my best to protect you. All they wanted was if there was hair on her shirt, they would pick it off. You're like, oh, they're just cleaning. No, they wanted the strands of hair. So my point is that if we were to go to Mexico, you go to Mexico, I go to Mexico, we could be building the same company. You would have more people show up at your meeting than mine.
Probably all men.
No, women too. Well, women love that. Women love the blonde hair. They're like, oh my God, how do you do that? That's natural, blah, 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 right?
They did in Cairo. There was many girls and women that wanted to take photos. Yes. And we took many photos because they would come, they didn't even speak English, but they would come show their phone and wanted to take photos. Yes, didn't touch my hair.
That's the thing in Mexico. So part of this is to understand they're going to want to be around you simply because your hair. They're going to go do the business simply because of your hair.
Really? You know, so?
Oh, I know so. I have 20 years experience doing it.
Well, let's go to Mexico.
I would go find an American living in Mexico, blonde, who understood this, and I would literally enroll them as a leader in the country. simply because they had blonde hair. And they knew that. There was no hiding about it. And it was a draw. It was literally a draw. I mean, so I'm just saying
Oh,
that
I've never heard that with Mexicans, and I've never experienced that.
well, again, this is what happens from I do business in Mexico to I'm a part of the Mexican culture. That's one of the things I'll do initially. When I have had my first meeting, because everybody's like, "Oh, the great white horse from America is here," especially even when I had the title of vice president. And or in my case, I'm white jackass, right? So, but the white guy was here, the American was here. And I know that they're like, I would love, and so shame, I didn't know it was shame, but I had such influence because they thought they needed to know what I knew.
But where in Mexico did you go? Maybe I should ask you that.
Oh, DF, Mexico City. I went to Polanco. I
What
went
is DF?
District Federale. It's like the Mexico City, the capital.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So Mexico, I went to DF. It's like DC here.
Oh, okay.
Mexico, all over Mexico. Sinaloa. I went to Louis Potosi, which is where all of the shipping is, the central part of. Anyways, but I would spend my first meeting, the big event where they would say, Sean's going to come and do training. I said, here's the training I want to do. I want to be trained. I want you to tell me where you're from, why you're here. And we would have an audience of 300-400 and 40, 50 people would tell me their story, which nobody ever did before. Nobody comes in and says, okay, you tell me how I can best serve you. They would come in and going, here's what we do. Here's and people would listen. They'd have 400 people clapping their hands going, this is the greatest thing ever. But nobody connected to their heart. There's places I can go in Mexico now. People will come up to me in hotels. This is a decade later and they go, I remember you in San Luis Potosi. I remember you at this event. You let me speak at your event. Okay. I love you. Can I get a hug? Yes. So when you go to Mexico, as you begin to build, they know how to work. We are not going to teach them how to work. So I wouldn't tell them how to work.
No, I agree with you.
I'd offer them the dream because you're going to get attention that may be even unwanted attention. Like you said, I don't want to go to India because it's all guys asking me. You're going to have guys, you're going to have women. The good news is that they usually come as a family. I invited people to bring their grandparents to the event. And those who brought their grandparents, I usually made it a point to put them on stage so that their grandparents who worked beyond as hard could see their grandkids who are grown adults in a spotlight. And so I was always, when you go to Mexico, what's the sale? What's the conversation after the sale?
I don't know. I've never sold anything in Mexico, so you tell me.
Well, the point is that what's the conversation after any sale? What's the bragging? I talk about bragging. So
I haven't been.
If I knew that I could get their grandparents there or their parents there, what happens next Sunday when they have the family get together? They're going to ask about me because I know during the previous week, because they usually meet on the weekends for family stuff, I would say, hey, listen, when you talk to your mom and dad, tell them thank you for coming to the event. And they were like shocked. And this is when I made it important to remember names. I would use their names. I said, please tell your mom and dad, Felipe and Juanita, it was an honor to meet them. There's no way they're leaving my business because they get to go brag to their parents that I remembered them. And their parents are like, that's a good man. You stay with him. Well, they're never going to leave. Doesn't matter what the company does. they're going to be with me. So part of building in international conversations is to build a community. Don't build a business. Build a community. Don't build your comp plan. Build a community. Don't build your products. Build a community. The products, the comp plan all work.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, people want to be part of something.
And the more of the family you can involve, the more you can get them to talk about their family, brag about their family. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Because everybody wants a Mexico leg. Everybody wants a Mexico leg. I mean, if I could just get a Mexican leg, man, my business would just catapult. Yes, it would. No doubt it would. Because it'll build there. It'll build in Mexico. It'll build in the United States. It'll build in Spain, right?
Yeah. Well, not in US, but
Right.
but in Mexico, and we
Right.
can build anywhere else. So it'd be good with
So
that.
that would be
That
my
is a great insight because yes, they're very family oriented. You are very right.
so I don't speak business. Because if they're looking to join you in business, they already have shame. Here's my point. Not because they want to join you in business, because what they're doing doesn't work. What they did doesn't work. This is Mexico's interpretation of any time a company launches in Mexico. They just want to come here and use us. Period. We can think, well, that's not what we're here for. Doesn't matter what you think you're here for. It's what they know you're here for. Mexico's easy for the US. It's right close. It's
But
right
why
here.
do they think that?
Because that's what happens. Everybody goes, here's what happens in Mexico. Anything we can't sell in the US, they dump in Mexico. Network marketing companies, and that's why Mexico became their health ministry became very specific on how long is the runtime, and you got to do testing, and you got to do biological testing on the stuff, because they got tired of shipping in stuff that didn't sell in the US. It was a dumping ground.
That's awful.
It is awful. So every Mexican who tried stuff and the product didn't work, or was the version 3.0 that didn't work, and they're like, well, this worked out for them, it doesn't work for us. And they find out, yeah, but it was a version that didn't work in the States. So we just dumped it in Mexico.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Well, that's why this is the Paul Harvey rest of the story. So every time a network marketing comes, they're like, oh yeah, but they've been around in the States, so they're just dumping their stuff here. Even if it's not true. Even if they manufacture in Mexico, I would encourage companies to manufacture in Mexico so they know it's fresh.
Well, we have digital products, so
Right. So again, digital's good. Digital's easy. Digital is
it's the gas caps.
right.
I don't know if they need them. The gas is much cheaper there, perhaps. I don't know.
No, it's not. And it's run by the government. All gas stations in Mexico are run by the government. So there's a slight fee. But the thing with the gas caps is to speak to them for all of the scooters, because all of the delivery companies need them. The people you're going to go talk to that show up at the meeting are going to be driving cars. They don't necessarily need it because they got some money. But everybody who's doing the deliveries and all the fast food and all of the document delivery and everything else in transport, because the only way to get around in Mexico quickly is on a scooter. So everybody drives scooters.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just for more gas, it's also they just released a lot of the data finally that and I know when I took my car in for
Mission.
checkup, they said, oh my God, you using these are great for your car. So the mechanic actually confirmed this to me, and I was super excited because I didn't know what it helps always inside of your car. So
Right.
it actually keeps the inside of your car, it's like a supplement, keeps the inside of your car healthy.
Yep.
And I mean, that's amazing because then people can drive their car longer, don't need to get the engine replaced or whatever may.
So now imagine somebody who's driving a scooter, who's got a job, they own the scooter, they're driving a job delivering Domino's pizza. They're worried about making a buck.
Yeah.
They don't care about the environment. They don't really care because they know how long. So the supplement for the vehicle, they don't care until they realize the value they can bring. And so that's the transition. All of the strategy and data are great, but strategy and data produce shame. And I say shame, it's a big word of what we're talking about, but the shame is that doesn't matter to me. That's a level of shame. That doesn't matter to me.
How would it produce shame? I guess
I know. So let me explain.
getting what you, how you defining shame, and maybe I define it differently or in just a small
Sure.
sliver.
So shame is an addiction to an understanding that is locked into you. Now, what do I mean by that? When Heather talks to people about getting well, it triggers shame because they don't think they're sick. They know they have discomfort. They know they want to get better. But why do people who lose weight put the weight back on? Shame. They do not have a story, a skinny story in their mind. I've been fat for years. They lose 30 pounds. Oh my God, you look good. You look sexy. Oh my gosh, that looks great. You got to go buy new clothes. Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh my God, I don't want this attention. They're not prepared for the love. So shame kicks in and they get fat again. Geez, I can't deal with that. They'll never say that, but at a subconscious, at a survival mechanism, they put the weight back on. You talk to somebody about creating income. Why do you think network marketing is such a viable tool, and yet so many people struggle at it? People know how to talk. The products work good. They can get the stuff done. Why do you think so many people pay for people's enrollment pack? I don't know if anybody on here has ever done that. I used to do that all the time.
I have done that many times.
Right.
I feel you.
Because it triggers shame in us to make them buy something when they say, well, I don't have enough money. Well, let me help you get started. Let me see if I can't help you with your life. And so here's the thing, when we buy the pack for them, when we gift them the pack, it triggers shame in them.
Yeah, they don't do anything.
So how could you, I'm being given a multi-million-dollar business and I do nothing with it? That's shame. It's addiction to approval. It's addiction to a story that allows them to stay stuck. You gave it to them. The model works. The business plan works. The health plan works. Why wouldn't you want to get healthy, get wealthy, and get rich? Because I don't have a story for that. I'm not ready for the love. I don't want to embarrass my parents. That's shame.
And that's people. I would never think that people would think they don't want to embarrass their parents. I mean, I've never thought.
Listen, I know you say it whenever I say something, you say, well, I don't see that.
I don't. I mean, for me, I don't see it. I would never thought of that. I would never cared whether I would embarrass my parents or not. My mother embarrassed me.
I get it. I get it. But so understand, you're an odd duck. All of you that are here are odd ducks. You're odd duck. You're misfits. That's why we call this community misfits. We don't fit in out there.
But maybe that's the issue. Maybe people simply can't relate to me. I have been told that before.
Yes. So your transition, your chameleon-like ability is to know that I would never think that, but they're thinking that. I have to allow myself space to say, okay, that's where their resistance is. I need to learn, just like you need to learn German, and you don't need to learn German. You can teach it. You don't speak shame. I teach it, and I'm teaching shame. I'm teaching how do we deal with people? How do we learn to speak the language of shame without activating it so they disappear? That's why people lose communities. Is because they activated shame in such a way that they're like, I don't even want to be a part of that anymore.
Now it starts making more sense.
And now you get to understand, okay, well, I don't like speaking shame. You don't have to like to speak it. You have to know that they're speaking it. You have to be able to interpret their actions, their feelings, their body language. You don't have to, you don't show up speaking shame. None of us, listen, write this down. I don't show up speaking shame.
I'm going to write it down.
But my words can be heard through their shame filter.
Yeah.
And if we hear that, if we know that, we can pay attention. That's why when I watch your body movements, I go, oh, got you, and you move, whatever it is, it's literally triggering an addiction, a break in an addiction you had. We call it a pattern interrupt. Pattern interrupt is breaking someone's addiction to their current state. In language, there's a thing called nexting. In our brain, anything that we're in, if you're gardening, do you ever garden?
No.
Okay. How about driving? You ever drive?
Yeah, well, yes.
Okay. Right. So driving on the highway, your brain operates differently than when it drives in the city. It's still driving, but in the city, you got cars bumper to bumper. You got people wanting to crosswalks. You got on the highway, there's no crosswalk. There's no stop, wait, parking, right? In California, drove me nuts. I'm like, what the hell is this? The little lights when you go to get on the highway, red, green, red, green. I'm like, what the frick? Why are people even, why is this even here? Had no idea that was to help with the flow of everything going on. So when you
They don't have that in other states?
no, I don't know. Not any of the other 30 states I've been in. Nobody's got lights to go on the highway. It's like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Just drive, get your ass on the highway. But that's not how it works. So my point is that when we go to have a conversation with somebody, we're conversing. What will serve us well is in some basic, if we ask, that's why I asked the 3 questions: permission to help, uncomfortable, take you out of the uncomfortable feeling. I know those questions and I can say them in such a way that is a consistent delivery. Just those 3 questions. My consistent delivery, the responses give me feedback that allows me to know how they respond through their shame filter. And if I know how they respond, because I've done it in thousands of times, there's a pattern that is developed in how people respond through their shame filter, because they had to hear it through their filter, and then they respond through the filter of shame, of addiction, that I can now set my tone to not activate that any farther. Mexico, it's wild, loud, loving, hugging, being a part of it. Germany, not so much. Handshakes.
Yeah, but I love to hug.
I get it. My point is that they hug in Germany. It's just until they, again, personality types, right? Serbia is different. Slovenia is different, right? They're all, every culture is, Italian's different. First time I went to kiss somebody and they wanted to kiss me twice, I'm like, what the hell is it? What?
Yes, they love to kiss. Yes.
And even, right, in Mexico, it's handshake, hug, handshake for the guys. I never knew what the third handshake, the second handshake was from. Like, what? So all I'm saying is that if this is an initial encounter, a second encounter, a recognition moment, they are wired. We are all 117, 18 countries, however many, 30 countries, wired for shame. Wired. It's a survival mechanism. We survived understanding that shame kept us safe. And we're asking people, be unsafe, go be an entrepreneur. Social media, that's the most shame-driven modality that exists. I'm not good enough. I didn't get enough likes. Kids killing themselves over likes. That's shame. That's not psychosis. That's nothing else. That is identity of I'm not good enough. Shame.
Well, because people only put the best of
And
them out there on social media, so everybody else sees it and thinks, wow, this person has a perfect life, but none of these people have a perfect life.
No, and it's called comparitis, right? Comparison syndrome. I'm not good enough. So if I'm not that good, I won't even get started. So yeah, that's shame. So that's this whole conversation.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome, welcome, welcome.
you. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anyone else? Last thoughts, comments, questions, takeaways? Anybody have an aha, an awakening going, okay, I can set that down. I don't have to lose it. I don't have to shove it in a corner. I don't have to put it in a box, lock it in a lead case and bury it in a nuclear facility. It's an awareness. Isn't that fascinating? I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. All right, everybody. My goal is this brings value. And thanks for being here. You're an amazing soul and you bring tremendous value. And Jim Rohn said, you want more income, create more value. And the value that you create is allowing people to express their joy. Help them find their joy. Love you tons. I'm your head brain training. Find your authentic voice misfit. I'll see y'all where? Hey, Jamie.
At the next event.
At the next event. Somebody give me some Costa Ricas.
Pura vida.
Pura vida. We love you, Mark. And some Lydias.
Peace
Peace
be
be
with
with
us.
us.
Please be with us.
Peace be with us all. The queen of helping you find your authentic voice, Jessie Lee Ward.
Boss
Lee.
Boss Lee, we love you, girl. And a little white fluffy.
What happened?
Gurgly, gurgly.
Gurgly. All right, everybody, go have some fun today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sitting through this and allowing yourself to expand and step